What up, everybody? This is Samuel welcoming y'all to another episode of Music in the Minor League. This week, we are joined by Mr. Brent McLennan of the Broken Spokes. Man, we've been big fans of the Broken Spokes for a while. We're really happy that actually Brent had the time to come talk to us, set up in the living room, had a beer, talked music, and just like the other Aggie we had on, Mr. Gabe Wooten, it went long and we had a great conversation. They had a lot to say. So this is going to be broken up into 2-hour parts as well. So you got this week and next with Brent. We cover a lot of ground. Man, it's a really good interview. We had a lot of fun hanging out with him. So, as always, before we start, we'll get all the housekeeping out of the way. First up, if you want to see the Broken Spokes, they got some shows coming up. If you're in Austin, Texas on May 19th, they'll be at the White Horse. If you're in Palacios, they'll be out at the Outrigger Event Center on May 28th. And then on June 3rd, they'll be at the White Elephant Saloon with Jamie Richards in Fort Worth, Texas. Then June 16th, they'll be heading down to Brewster Street Ice House in Corpus Christi. And then June 17th, they'll be in my hometown of Crystal Beach, Texas at the Stingery Restaurant and Marina. That's going to be a good one. June 24th, swing into Round Top in, you'll never guess, Round Top, Texas. All right, now if that's out of the way, let's get to our housekeeping. First off, as always, if you like what you hear, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends about it. It's the best way to grow listeners and get people to check out all this music we care about. Second, if you like the bands and the music we discuss, please go follow them on your streaming service of choice. That helps everybody out. As we discussed in the episode, it helps everyone out when it comes down to getting booked places and finding new places to go, giving us the ability to tour more and things like that. Finally, if you're interested in seeing Brightwire, well, we have some dates coming up for you. This coming Saturday, we'll be at the Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe with Trish Cramblett and the Bad Habits. That's going to be a good one, man. We've been, like I said multiple times, we're huge fans of Trish. We're going to do an interview for the podcast with her while we're down there, man. It's going to be a great show. Tickets are available on the Old Quarter website, or you can pay at the door. Then on Tuesday, we're going to be heading to the Saxon Pub, that's May 16th, to play with Austin Mays. We're going to be doing the late show. It starts at 10 p.m. Start acting kind of sick Tuesday afternoon, 10 like you're really working through, and then call in sick Wednesday morning. It's the best way to come out to the show and have some fun. Just do it. Then on May 26th, we'll be at Ronnie's Ice House with our friends Grifters and Shills and Whiskey Dick. We had a great time doing that show with them back in December, man. We're doing it again. It's going to be a great one. Then on June 10th, we'll be at the Naughty Beaver Hut in my hometown of Crystal Beach, Texas. I'm doing like a local homecoming festival. It's going to be me, we believe Clancy Jones, Michael Farrell, and many more. Then we're going to be heading for a few dates into New Mexico. We're going to be at 2 nights in Albuquerque, the first at Pokey Pokey Cevicheria, and the next night at Ponderosa Brewing Company. Then on the 18th, we're going to be heading down to Silver City, New Mexico for a show at Little Toad Creek Brewery and Distillery. It's going to be a good one. All right, y'all, that's it from us, man. We'll see you on the other side, but before we get there, we're going to kick it off with one of our favorites from the Broken Spokes. This song's called Someday Not Today from their new record, Where I Went Wrong. Check it out, and we'll see you on the other side.
Someday I'll stop dreaming about you. Someday I won't miss you like I do. Someday your name won't be so damn hard to say. Someday, not today. Someday when it stops hurting, I know I'll have a brand new heart. And I won't count the hours or the days that we're apart. Someday I won't break into memories we play. Someday, not today. Someday I'll remember how to smile. You can offer me whiskey, I'll say, friend, it's been a while. 'Cause I won't need a bottle to help me feel okay. Someday, today. Someday you're gonna want me, I'll be holding someone new. I won't remember hurting at the very thought of you. Someday I won't understand why I ever hoped you'd stay. Someday, not today. Oh, someday, not today.
All right, y'all, we're here with another episode of Music in the Minor League. Today we are here with our good friend, the singer and guitar player of the Broken Spokes, Mr. Brent McLennan. Did I do it right?
You got it. You nailed it.
Did
That
it?
was beautiful.
That was unbelievable. Like, that's the best intro I've ever gotten anywhere.
Yeah, that was I was trying to get very, old school, easy listening, classic country.
Like NPR.
I want to, like, cut that, and then when, like, I'm the last one to be ready to, like, leave the house, and everyone's irritated, like, waiting by the car, I'm going to, like, play that as I come out and be like, boom.
This is who I am.
Boom.
The reason we had to do it so incredibly refined was because I totally blew the intro initially.
No one had to know, actually. That's the best part.
I just, it's one of those things where something happens and I just can't live with the shame of knowing, of
taking
being
these
the
people
only
behind the
person that
curtain.
knows.
Yeah.
I have to share my shame with the world. That way, it just, I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic. You
All
have
that
to
guilt.
confess. Yeah, I have to confess to the world. This is my confessional.
I grew up Lutheran, so it's like Diet Catholic. So it's like Catholic without the guilt.
Oh, no, man.
As did I. Cheers.
Hey.
Nah, I grew up like hanging out. Like, yeah, dude, called my mom a bitch. It was bad. You should 7 Hail Marys, dude. It's gone.
Wait, it's like gone?
Like, sweet. Okay.
Okay, that's not a bad deal.
And then when my mom's mad, she's like, no, Father Hannah said, it's gone. I did it. I said the 7 Hail Marys. You can't be mad anymore. She
That's right.
invited-
How long do you have to stay in purgatory for that? I don't know.
This is the rules, Mom.
Obviously,
Eternity.
my mom was not as forgiving as God was. That's okay.
He's a loving God.
Well, I hope. I mean, I sure hope so.
And unfortunately, Mom actually had a bearing on what I did day to day. So it was like, all right, cool, here we go.
Right?
But anyways, enough about me.
Enough about me.
All right. So again, we're here with Brent. Some of y'all may have remembered the Broken Spokes being mentioned during Gabe Wooten episode. If you listen to the second one, we actually played their version of his song.
Yeah. Love ain't around.
Love Ain't Around. Yeah, I knew it was something with love. I know. I know. I could sing you the song, but I can't tell you the name of it.
Brent probably could too.
Well, yeah, as long as you don't have your TV on. You know,
Right.
we talked about that earlier. May forget the words.
So you should all be familiar. She'd have already checked them out.
If
For
you
me, the
haven't,
Broken
that's what the
Spokes were a
episode is
band
for.
that Gabe had told me multiple times about how great they were and stuff. So I kind of decided I would never see them because I was like, oh, whenever your friend's like, this band's really good. And then you're like, can't ever see that band because if I don't like them, what do I do?
Yeah, we can't talk anymore. We can't
Right.
be friends.
What'd you think
Well,
about
but
my
Gabe
friends?
never says that about anybody, and I don't know. Like, yeah, I still sometimes I'm like, do you really like it, or are you just like trying to be nice to me?
No, it's good because we were, we hung out. We had a good talk after. I actually did go see them at the Old Quarter with Gabe as my spirit guide as I went through the trip. And it was great to the point that when I sent Kim the link, I'm going to be terrible. I do not remember your lead guitar player's name. And
Josh.
keyboards. Josh. That Kim's response to the video was, fuck that guy.
Yes.
Because he's such a great harmony singer and then can play guitar,
And then he can also
keyboards and stuff
play.
on top of that. So and that's a high compliment.
That's high praise.
Right, and then you
from
realize he
Brent
can also tune a piano. You're like, wow, what am I doing with
And
my
he does
life?
it by ear.
Yeah, you're like, wow, cool.
He does it by ear. It's
Wow.
pretty wild.
That is
Josh is
wild.
an interesting dude. He's like a vault of like random knowledge.
He looks
I think
like that guy.
Yeah, I feel like he's like, if he would have been born in like the 30s, like that would have been like his generation, right? Like he would have been awesome as your grandpa, like, and your grandpa would have just like totally gotten along. I mean, him and my father-in-law.
Did you get
Oh,
along?
dude, they are bros. They will go out to the shop and start talking about nuts and bolts.
So
and
do you
drill
think-
presses and
Real question. Do you think if you were to ask Josh randomly at a show if he had Werther's Original in his pocket, he would?
if he didn't, he would have the most amazing dad joke about like why he didn't. I promise you.
I feel like the next time you guys are at a show, you should bring that up and ask. Put him on the spot.
I've tried to get him like the little calendar that goes in the pocket, like with the
yes.
pen. I just got to go. I got to find a bank that has one, and I think he would wear it. Maybe not all the time, but he would at least once just to humor me.
That should be like every year for his birthday, you get him a new one. Oh man, there you go. There you go.
Leisure suits should become his thing.
Oh yes.
That'd be sweet. Just bump around all the grandpa clothes.
Hell yeah.
It fit, you know.
We already kind of are halfway there. I mean, we wear a lot of polyester in this band, you know.
No one smoke a cigarette around those guys, please.
There's a lot of Aquanet, Suavito, and
Oh boy,
up it goes. You know,
no
what I
open
mean?
flames, please.
Accelerant and fuel. You know,
Be like Michael Jackson in a Pepsi commercial.
that's right.
Too soon for that joke or no?
I think we're 40 years out. It's fine.
All right, cool.
But so when you started out, man, what got you really going with music? What made you fall in love with music? I mean, you're still doing this. You're an adult.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm. Yeah, I'm
And as
40 now.
As
you
the
know,
government
41,
would
that's
say,
a full-on adult.
you're an adult. Maybe not inside, but external.
I know.
Outside.
It's weird how like you are something that you don't feel like you are a lot of times. I don't know. I wonder if my parents felt this way. I don't know,
they
but
did.
do you think so? They probably
Yeah.
did. They probably did. No, I've always just been such a fan, right? I've kind of had a natural proclivity to it, right? Singing to me, I don't know. I don't want to take a big, like, beat my chest about stuff like that because it's kind of like you can kind of do it or you can't, right?
Right.
It's a skill that can be developed, but like there's core talent that you just kind of are born with, right? Or you're not in certain ways, and your ear and all that again. So, you know, I've always just grown up doing that. And it was funny when I went into middle school and you go into 6th grade, the real exciting thing is you got an elective,
Oh yeah,
right? And you're like, oh man. So where I went to middle school, you could be in band, choir, or you did a little rotation where you did like 6 weeks or one turn in like home ec and shop and all the different
Yeah.
things. You got to try everything.
That's called the buffet class.
Yeah. And so I was totally going, well, they were like, the band people were not real interested in me, which was fair enough. They're like, yeah, I was like, I'm going to have to practice this instrument and learn it and all this. And like, you got to be here every day. And I was like, gee, I don't know. And they're like, you may want to go check out some of these other booths down here. And so I was heading that way. And then the choir people were like, well, I'm telling you right now, they were doing their pitch. They're like, look, we go to Six Flags at the end of the year to
Sign
do a
me
thing.
up.
And I was like, bam.
Do this.
Done. And like I said, I got in there and the lady was like, hey, you're pretty good at this. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, cool. This is cool. So that's kind of where I got it. But, you know, I've been a fan of all kind of music my entire life, right? Growing up, my parents were into, you know, old school country, a little bit of hippie stuff. My dad liked, you know, some of the Moody Blues and kind of some of the stoner, trippy rock from the 60s and 70s. So I heard a little bit of all that. And, you know, they were kind of, you know, top 40 at that time radio listeners. And it wasn't until I probably got a little bit older. And it was weird. I think, if I remember correctly, one of the first things that caught my attention was, I don't know if you remember, this is going to sound super cheesy. This is my journey.
Okay.
Like, do you remember the band Silverchair?
Oh
I'll show
yeah,
you,
Frog
man.
Stomp.
Bro, when I heard Tomorrow,
Yes.
the first time I was in I had to be in elementary school. I probably was in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're
Or
what? You
6th
said
grade.
41.
Yeah, I was in
I'm
fifth-
43. Yeah, so
About
we're
5th or 6th
Yeah.
grade when that Frog song came out.
Oh,
Was that
man.
90? Maybe I was a little older than that.
Like 92, 93.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
probably in 6th or 7th grade, and I was just like, that just, you know what I mean? I was like, what is that? Ooh, holy cow. And I remember at one point I'd gone to Target with my mom or something, and I was like, I want a tape. It was tapes, remember?
Hell yeah.
And I got a Silverchair Frog Stomp tape, and my mom was like, well, what is this? And I'm like, this is music I'm into. She's like, well, let's just listen to it on the way home.
Oh,
And then she cried. She's like, it's something about this worship of the devil and killing your mother. Oh my God, my boy, you know? And then I was like, all right, now I'm hooked. You know what I mean?
Right.
And from
Made
there, I
mom
just
upset.
found, yeah. I just, yeah.
Wait, she didn't take it away from you?
She didn't. No, she didn't. But she
No,
was.
I
she
was born into the
fairly
wrong
upset.
family.
She was not super excited about it.
Yeah, not everyone grew up like you, Kim. like I feel like the movie Footloose was maybe based on your childhood.
I just used to get the turn that shit down.
Well, yeah.
What?
I would get the door would just like fly open and like hit the wall. What is that, young lady?
It's Deborah Gibson, Mom.
Definitely not George.
See, luckily
Michael.
my brother got really into like his favorite punk band was like TSOL, so that's like songs about necrophilia and
Right.
stuff.
That's
And
when
then-
your mom will really love.
Yeah, then he got really into like NWA and stuff like that, and it was
Yes.
like, so I'm like, compared to me, like, Mom, I'm listening to this here Pearl Jams and the Fugazi records. It was like, okay, these guys are like treat each other decent and do all this, not like bitch suck my dick and stuff like that. It's like, you're good, but it's too loud. Turn it down. Shut the fuck up.
Still too loud.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like, damn the man, Mom. Like, but we're doing it in a very respectful and responsible way. You know?
Exactly. We're saying darn the man, Mom.
Yeah.
We're saying it. We're
that's
saying
cool.
about be a decent person.
Yeah, but
Don't be a piece of shit.
I'm not going to tie this up with a bow, but yeah, I've been into music in some various forms my whole life, but I've always, part of the things that I loved about music is I like finding the source, right? You know what I mean? So like I get into things and I'm like, all right, I want to know all there is to know about that, right? And they're like, okay, well here's metal. And I'm like, okay, I want to know all there is to know about metal, right? So then I go through these phases where I'm like, I'm going to listen to all this stuff and learn about all this stuff. Because as I got older, right, I never wanted to be the kook, so to speak, right, in the crowd of people. Right. It was like, oh, you don't know anything about this? And like, no, because that was my crowd, right? That was the one place I had to like maintain my rep was with the music kids. But I've always been to pretty much all kinds of music. There's any genre that there is, I can find something that I like. Yeah. It's usually the rawest, most direct. Like I've explained to the people, and you guys will get this, right? Where I'm like, look, the music that I really like, let's say 98% of the population either doesn't know exists or does not care for, and that's okay, right? I used to be, and Gabe's mellowing a little bit. He was one of these, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm much less of a snob. Where I'm like, if you really love Taylor Swift, I think that's awesome, right? It's music, it's art, right? It's the most widely interpreted media on the planet, and some people look at paintings and go, man, I see anger and passion, and I see aloneness, and I'm like, I just see lines, and it's just there's paint. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I don't see anything. It looks like nothing to me. And so I've tried to like have that respect to a certain extent and go, look, if that's what speaks to you, then awesome, right? It's just not for me. I'm not necessarily into it, right? I don't know that it's necessarily bad. Like, again, right. Dave Matthews is amazing, right? I mean, that band is awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the music at all, and that's just me personally, right? But I mean, if you are and it speaks to you, that's cool. And again, if you can back up your opinion, if I go, right. Well, why do you like it? And you go, well, here's why I like it. And I'll go, all right, you may even move me over a little bit. You know what I mean?
Is that another episode where we managed to bring up Taylor Swift?
It's like, damn it.
Well, I have 7-year-old twin daughters, and like, so they're in the throes of it right now. Like,
wait, you have 7-year-old twin daughters?
I do.
I got karma. Do you ever pull them aside and go like, yo, this is Britney Spears, man. This is the root.
No, I'm like, so when they were little, and I need to find the video and just text it to you for proof. When they were little bitty, like we would put on like Walk by Pantera when they were taking a bath.
Great song. And
I would teach them how to kind of like do the swirling, head banging, and I've got videos in our bathroom just singing Walk, that's like stomping around. Yeah. I'm like, no, you got to have a mad face. It's metal. Show me your metal face. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah. And my wife's just like, oh my God. And I'm like, this is great. They could sing the Ramones from the time they could walk, sing. And I'm like, I will do my part to give them a balanced musical basis of like,
another
just
5
not all
years,
crap.
They'll come back to the like decent music. And I'm not even saying Pantera's like decent. I'm saying like they'll come back to more like music than product.
True.
Well, I get they're at the age, right, where they're growing, and it's like, they're starting to get in the whole like, well, this is what everyone likes, right? And
you must be good, right?
You know what I mean? Well, and that's what we do, right? We want to run to the middle of the herd, right? As quick as we can as people, and it's just natural. So I try to be even respectful of their opinion of it. You know what I mean?
True. Everyone tries that. Then you start realizing, man, it kind of sucks here. Like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Well, listen to something. But I always say, some people are into art, like you said, It's lines. Like, despite my stature, like people like, I'm a foodie, I'm this. I'm like, whatever. I'm going to go to Taco Bell, like, leave me alone. But I would never look at a foodie and be like, this is legitimate cuisine. This is some, executive chef spent some time coming up with this 7-layer burrito.
There are 7 layers of flavor here.
Well, but here's the other thing. Like, I can eat $100 steak and go, that was unbelievably good. Oh my God. And then I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and be like, that was really, really good.
Especially like some apple butter on it.
That's where it's like,
you know what I mean? I don't know. Sometimes you got to cut the pretension, right? Of whatever you're looking at. Just be real.
It's like, this makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's not quality, but
I think people will feel attacked when you don't. When you don't like what they like.
Or I don't think they feel attacked. They feel like they feel like insecure about like, oh, well, maybe.
Well, because it makes them feel a certain way, but it doesn't move you, and it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, when you're young and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Because I didn't come into like uncrappy music until we met. But
I got a lot of guilty pleasure. I love melody. Melody will suck me in. Now, I don't get me wrong. I love lyrics. There's all different. Like I said, any kind of music, I can find something about that style that I'm like, man, I love, and this is how I judge what I really like and what I think is really good or not really good. But I've always been a sucker for melody, right? I would be like, were you listening to that Newfound Glory CD? I'm like, no, not at all. I'm too hard for that,
dude.
Man.
Some of those songs.
Love a cigarette, Yeah, oh my God, but it was so like. Dude, they're so catchy and melodic, and I was like, oh, get in my ear and stay there.
Yeah, no, but that's I think the nice thing about music, and it's like it's okay to change your likes too. Like it can grow,
right, for sure.
You know, I think that's what's nice about music taste and any artistic stuff like that. It's you evolve with it, and it kind of like you're gonna have those cringy things like, oh man, I can't believe I really like that song, but at the same time, you could also have a very embarrassing song that is a great moment in your life too.
Just lean into it.
Yeah, so it's okay.
Oh, yeah. There's stuff that even.
I was just gonna say, and you also have people who are into music just because that's what moves them, or that's what's available to them.
For sure.
Yeah.
They don't have access to independent music, and so that's what they listen to. But you can expand their horizons. That happened to me.
I feel like I'm at like a intervention. Everybody's like staring at me. See?
Well, no, I was just thinking
They can have this.
They don't have access to it because it's difficult.
Oh, I
find
didn't have
independent
access
music.
to any of that either. I was down at like a place with like 300 people and Houston radio stations.
Barely made it down there, man.
He's like
Seriously.
seek things out.
Well, but
Well, some
like
people do, but some people don't until much later in life.
Well, I mean, but
I'm
also
just
it's for
saying.
not everybody. It's kind of the deal. There was a good deal from what was it? Your favorite band sucks podcast about. At any given night, Taylor Swift. There were what 30, 40, 50,000 people at Reliant Stadium for one of her shows. You know what the other 4.45 million people in Houston were doing? Not giving a shit. So I mean, really, by and
or
large,
half of them were upset because they couldn't get tickets or
most
afford it.
people don't. Most people don't care. And it's okay. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people don't want access. And that's fine. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying the foodie thing to kind of belittle music. I'm saying I don't expect everyone to give a shit about music the way I do.
Right.
Because when it comes to going to a fine restaurant, I couldn't care less. I mean, you've been with me. Ken's been with me, dude. Like $100 steakhouse, it's not worth it to me. It's like it's panic inducing. Like it's not comfortable. It's like this is not worth this.
It's like when I try to go into Starbucks and order anything because I'm not really a coffee drinker and I don't understand any of the vernacular. And it's like, I don't know if you heard that Nate Borghese thing about it was wrong. So I threw it in the trash and I went to the next one and I tried again. That's a real thing, man. Like I'm
Just want a
panicking
large
and I'm just like,
coffee.
oh, I'm going to call. I'll go outside and I'm like, oh, coffee's not for me. I'm not going to do it. I don't know. I don't want to be like that because there's 18 people in line. I'm like, I don't know what to order. I don't know what size. Like you should be able to hire. That's what we're going to do. That's a good business idea. I'm going to be like, you're going to be like a coffee ambassador. And be like, look, on a day you call me, I'm going to meet you there. I'll prep you before we go in.
Right.
I'll walk right behind you. If you need some help, I'll guide you, right? And then I'm going to teach you the whole thing, and then I'll make sure you get it. We'll sit down. You can choke through it. I'll tell you it's going to be okay, right? And then you move on. I think there's a huge market for that.
I feel like that's
potentially,
kind of a niche market. Well, I mean, it is coffee, so.
See, that's why it helped when my wife just worked as a part-time barista there. I'd be like, can you bring me something? And she's like, yeah. And so then it magically showed up and was right every time. Yeah, it works out.
See, it's easy. Venti, coffee,
But
half and half, two Splenda, 100% of the time.
What name do you want that under?
See,
Spicy chorizo.
I'd be like, Sam, what do I do? Just I'll have what he's having.
Right, exactly.
Just whatever your plainest coffee is.
Rum and cola, do it. Do
But,
it.
I
do
guess
it.
it is like Brent says, because my brother is just a person who's kind of tone deaf, and he likes music, but it's
Right.
more as like a background thing.
Yes.
for him.
Or an appreciator of it, but I just don't have the
He couldn't tell you artists,
Right.
or differentiate between artists, or maybe even genres. Sometimes, he just likes it,
Right.
and to people like that, radio is accessible.
Again, I'm bringing it back to the don't give a shit about, I could say food, but that's the thing. It's like, it's something that's there. I enjoy it. I mean, I don't dislike it. It's like, oh, cool, I'll grab
But it
this,
doesn't
but
move you.
I'm not seeking it out. I'm not willing to give the time it takes to go like, well, this actually tastes like shit. But if you stop for a moment and you start breaking down all the different flavors, you'll notice it covers sweet, salty, blah, 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 oil, fat, like all this. I don't care. And I
you
don't
can
expect
imagine.
other people to feel, I don't
Right.
expect anyone to give. Like when we play venues and people don't care, it's like, well, good. I don't need you to make me happy with what I'm doing.
Well,
And
You're
I
like the
think that's-
anti-artist, and I freaking love it.
yeah, well,
Most of them are like, why? They don't love my
Well, but
art.
I
They don't
think
get
it's
it.
also- I think it-
Why
I
does
think-
no one appreciate me?
like when
My
you play
tunes?
places, like the biggest thing for me is like I don't expect them to care. Like whatever, if
Right.
they do, that's great. I'm just glad that they're not like, can you please turn down? Like that to
Right.
me would be like, okay, I'm doing the wrong.
The
The only
Like
people
stage.
that I really worry about a lot of time when we play venues is like the staff who's here every night. Am I
Right.
making their night suck?
Right.
Like, are they miserable? Because if they're like, when we're done, they're like, dude, that was cool. Like, I could have 50 people in the audience come up and go, yeah, it was great. And the staff members like, dude, we actually really had fun, like, having y'all here tonight. And it's like, cool, dude, because y'all have heard everyone who comes through here.
Right.
And there are nights where you don't have fun listening to whoever came in.
Oh, yeah.
So that's always exciting. But to bring that all back, like, that's my thing. I don't...
Well, you have to look at how people
snobby thing.
have consumed music, right? It's changing.
Right.
But traditionally, right, the only way you knew anything, the radio, right? There were the record companies that controlled who got heard, how they got heard. The radio told you exactly what you were going to hear, right? So people have been programmed over the last, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
30, 40 years, right? That's where you go to consume it, right? Well, then when all Napster changes things, right? This streaming changes things, and now it's different. We've talked a lot about this, where it used to be only certain few got tapped.
Right.
But if you got tapped, everyone heard you.
Right.
Now everybody gets tapped, and being able to be heard that's the new quandrum. How do you be heard where everybody now has a platform, which is awesome in a lot of ways, but now there's so much noise for you to be heard over the noise is difficult. That's
everything has a soundtrack now.
That was one of the good things. Our buddy Brian from the Bottle Rockets was like, talked about
great
that.
Band, by the way.
It used to
Great
be
band.
where
Agreed.
I had friends come up and show me pictures of their children. I go, great, yeah, man, like that's great, it's your kid. And he goes, and now I live in a world where like everyone's running up, jamming pictures of their kids in my face, and it's like I don't care anymore. I don't know half these like most of these kids.
Well, and he's probably past the term like I'm just so tired of being like just nice and cordial about stuff. Like I've just done it so long. Like I'm losing.
I think we do that as
patience.
we age. I am.
I don't know. I keep finding so much cool shit out there because I still try to, there was always that lightning moment of when I was young where, basically growing up down at the beach, like some kid would move in, someone's parents would have a downward spiral, and they'd end up living in Bolivar Peninsula. Not just visiting for the summer, but something went wrong, and they ended up living there. Bolivar's a wild
place. That's a whole. We'll do another episode on that another day.
So that's where I grew up. And some kid would end up moving from Houston. I don't know what went wrong, and they'd end up living in Crystal Beach. Or they'd make the mistake like, this is such a great place to visit, I'm going to move here. And then it'd be like, oh.
It's Tuesday in November, and you're like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Everything's closed.
Go over to Jeff's house and watch him do meth. Yeah. And that was kind of that's what you did for fun. I'm not doing it, but I'll watch all the cokeheads get all tweaked out and act crazy for the afternoon. What else do I have going on? But, some kid would move in and be like, have you ever heard of, like, the Dead Kennedys? And I was like, no. Like,
but I'm interested.
Right. I remember the first time the kid moved in Casey and put that on, I was like, this is like 80s music. This sucks. And he's like, but then have you heard this band? And he handed me, like, a Fugazi tape. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, that's it. That's what I wanted to hear.
Right.
So now I have to go to the store and buy all of this.
Right.
And then you end up getting a magazine, and then you see something, and then, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like the thrill of the chase. Like you said, finding the source. Like, where do these people get?
Right.
What bands were these dudes in before this?
You hear Green Day, right? Then you hear, I don't know, then you hear Rancid, and then you hear Bad Religion, and then you hear The Descendants, and then you hear Black Flag, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, then you hear the Ramones, or you hear the MC5, or right? And you're like, I'm all about like, all right, where's the focal point of this? And like, then you start going on to the tangents to go, oh, well, it went this way. Well, what is that? Oh, well, then this came off of it, and all that came off of it, and it's,
Yeah, I was talking to Ian about that on Friday or Saturday, coming back from the 30-foot fall deal, and it was like Operation Ivy came on. I was like, yes, I remember I was not a big Rancid fan, but I was at a friend's house reading like a magazine, probably like whatever music, Rolling Stone or something. They're like, Tim Armstrong from Rancid used to be in this band called Operation Ivy. And, I was in Nacogdoches at like a Hastings Music. And I was like,
oh man, Hastings Music?
Yeah. And I was like, they had an Operation Ivy CD, and I was like, a cassette. I was like, I'll buy that. And I was like, this is like so much better than anything Rancid ever put out. At least at that point.
Well, it's funny. It's like, here, do you want to hear Tim Armstrong on an 8-track recorder? Here, do you want to hear Tim Armstrong with millions of dollars of production? Oh, you just hear him a little better. You can just hear him a little clearer. He kind of sounds exactly the same.
Oh, yeah, voice, but Jesse Michaels is definitely the better vocalist.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, it was just like, this is killer. Like, this is wow. And, here I am 4 years later. No, like 30 years later.
Well, but the thing you have to understand about that is like what that caused. Like, there's no Nirvana and without that, right? There's And if you listen to all these artists now, like influential, big, huge bands, right? Dave Grohl, people like that have just really, I mean, the biggest names in music, they'll tell you, oh man, like if I hadn't heard that, right? And we were totally into that, right? And that's what inspired this and inspired that. And that's what's crazy is like kids in garages and basements, right? With no production value and no understanding of business or anything put us on a path for like modern American rock music. Like,
Right.
I mean, it really did do that.
Yeah, it was wild just reading stuff about Black Flag would do their national tours and seeing all the different people. It was like, again, like the Melvins on My War were just like, oh, dude, we're going to start playing really slow now. That was cool. And then, bands in California like, well, I went to the Black Flag show. You have the Beastie Boys in New York. We're just like... Black Flag show, like, dude, we're going to start a punk band. And then they turned into so not even genres outside of punk rock got dudes to start picking up guitars and
1,000%.
like, I'm going to do this.
Well, yeah, because I think about, like, when you think about punk rock, it was really accessible.
Oh, 1,000%. That's what was made it so great. You could be a part of it.
You could walk into it. Yeah,
Yes.
you could walk into it and fumble fart your way into a punk rock song in no time. But if I'm looking at what, like, Led Zeppelin's playing, no, I'm good.
Well, that, and you were sitting on the 50th row in a stadium, and you had to look through your binoculars, right? You would never get near those people or touch them, right? And at a punk show, man, like the band that you loved, and they're right there.
Yeah.
And you could get them on stage and give the guy a hug, and afterwards he'd sell you a t-shirt, right? And I mean, it was one of these things where it truly created community.
Yeah, it was crazy to be a part of those shows.
You can be a real part of this. And it's funny because I've likened, and some people will cringe on this, but follow me. I've likened the Texas country thing when it started to the same thing, right? Because it was kind of one of these things where you were used to seeing country music done in a certain way, right? Again, big concerts, you go to the rodeo, you see him way down there, he rides around on the little horse and he runs out and you never see him again. And the Texas country thing was kind of punk rock. It was in clubs and stuff that you could go up, you could be a part of it, you wanted a picture, you wanted to sit and talk to the singer, you could do it. People felt connected to it, right? It was the whole like, oh, you're singing about, I'm in college, I'm drunk, I like to go to the river, right? Oh, you're singing about that. You're right. It's just a different form of it, but it was a music that people, I think, could connect to and touch and be a part of, and that's what kind of made it take off, right?
Oh no!
Dude, like early 2000, I was in Nacogdoches at a bar hanging out, and Pat Green and I had a beer together. Yeah. And this is before like he really took off. I knew kind of who he was,
right?
And then it was like a year later, I'm like, wait a minute, I know that guy, And it's just crazy. Yeah, it was approachable. It was a tangible thing. We could touch the artist and be part of it.
It was a DIY thing. Like, we're just going to start playing these shows and start doing this stuff. And they created everything. I mean, people made millions and millions of dollars off of the little, and that's just in the state primarily.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
In Oklahoma. I mean, it's wild.
Well, and that's the crazy part about if you want to be a touring band in Texas, just tour Texas.
You can.
You can make a damn good living playing the circuit through Texas. I mean, you guys play.
Well, we're trying, right? Yeah. And that's a big thing people talk to us about the band. And I'm like, we're going to do a little out-of-state run finally here in August.
Oh, right.
But I'm like, yeah, it'll be. We're gonna see. We're gonna see.
Come on, guys, get the band. We're going.
Here's the deal. No matter what happens,
leave your damn piano at home.
That's right. It's going to be fun, right? Because I know how it is out there. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we haven't done here that we can do here. That it's you know how it is, right? It's I can make enough money to almost break even doing things here where it's hard to drive to where the middle of Nebraska and play for $300, right? I mean, you're not even breaking even, right?
Right.
No. But
and so like that's been our thing is like the way we built the band, right, is we were like, okay, Houston's a tough town, right? It's just there's a lot going on here.
Right.
There's a lot of places. If we got to build and be able to build a crowd and do things in Houston, and when we can do that consistently, then we'll start going out. So I think we're kind of in that second phase where we've been going out, but we're trying to kind of do what we did in Houston, in Dallas, in Corpus, in San Antonio. Austin, we've done pretty well, just because we've had a lot of opportunities to go play. Yeah. But it's more about saying, okay, we beat this town down. I mean, we played 1 billion shows. There's years I could show you spreadsheets where we played 75 shows and 70 of them were in Houston.
Wow.
In a year. I mean, and so as we progressed, we're trying to take the leap from being more of a bar band to like a feature band, right? And the key there that all the business people that we've had around us are like, look, you have to sell hard tickets. Right?
Yeah,
you have to learn how to sell because that's where the thing changes. And again, it's not saying anything, but like if you cannot sell hard tickets, you're going to top out with where you are, right? Pay wise, gig wise, which is fine. I mean, and some people, again, it all depends on really what you want to be. But like, if you want to be bigger and you want more opportunities, we got to sell tickets, right? And so the first thing we learned here was, hey, you can't play 4 times a month 3 of which are free in Houston, and make that work, right? Because again, it's
Right.
just simple economics. So like, you need to play in town a little bit less, right? Use it as a ticketed event, and let's find out if all those bar shows you played, is that translating to people saying, okay, well, I want to play $10 to come see you,
Right.
Because if no one's going to play $10 to come see you, we kind of know where we are, right? She's like, then
Right.
play whatever you do what you want to do, right? But it's not. I know some people that are like, look, I don't care about selling tickets. Like, I just want to do what I want to do. I want to play at the places I want to play, and I think that's amazing, right? I think that's awesome. But I'm just too goddamn competitive. Like, it's this weird thing in me, right, where I'm like, I want to do more. Like,
Right.
I want to do that. Like, we're better than them, or we're just as good as them. We should be able to do that,
Right.
And so that's kind of been where the journey we've been on is like, there's so much more we can do here that we're trying to do here piece by piece before we run out and do all that. Now, is that the right thing to do? I don't know. No one knows. You never know.
Honestly,
Right?
I think it's
Yeah, but
works
a lot
pretty
of
good.
Yeah, a lot of it's good because especially when you hit outside markets, even if you kind of break even or lose your ass a little bit,
Well, you have
when
to
you
a
come
certain
home,
extent, right?
it makes the ticket at home a little more meaningful to people because they're like, well, dude, you saw they were just out.
Right.
They
Yeah.
went and played all these places. And that's what, that's the scam we run. It's like, dude, we play all over the country. Man, you should come see us. The one show this month we're playing here. It's $10 a head.
Right, come on out.
Here.
Is it working?
You're going to have to edit this out. You know that, right?
No,
We can't give
why
all the
not?
secrets.
Just but it's the reality of the game. I mean,
Right.
that's
And,
how-
and again, that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to tell people that listen that are fans or appreciators, right?
Right.
Is if you got, because I can look at this through both lenses, right? Because I feel like I truly am a hardcore music fan and appreciator. And I also am a musician that's trying to run a band and make a profit, right?
Right.
And again, a lot of it sometimes is for our guys and gal. Several of them do this for a living,
Right.
and they need
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
And again, when you're doing this for a living, they get involved in all these other gigs. I want to keep them on our gig as much as we can, and I want to give them as much as we can. So we're always balancing, the business with the show. And then the fact that we really didn't do a very good job at all about our marketing or social, like all the other stuff, right? Making video, all the stuff that everyone does now, we've not really done a good job of that. And so anytime we're making extra money, I will funnel that. Josh and I, we're kind of like partners at the core of the band that started it, but we're usually taking all of a majority of the profit that we make from the band and funneling it back into band, right? Reinvesting it in whatever else we can reinvest it in, right? Band wise.
And that's the thing, it's not even completely self-serving with the whole, like, trying to build this up,
Right.
get to where you can move tickets, stuff like that. I mean, it's very helpful with the venues and stuff as well.
Right. Well, and again, I love to get free music and I love to listen to it, but like I also know that like if you really are a true appreciator, buy some merch. You got to do something. Like we're trying to make a living just the same way you do. And again, don't be mad at me because sometimes my job may be cooler. Like I get it, but they don't see any of the back end, right? They
Right.
just see that one little 2 hours. And I've always laughed like, if you've ever toured, like how's touring? I'm like, it's really fun. You drive a lot and then you sit around and do nothing for 6 hours a day, right? Because you're like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
We load in at 3:30 and we play at 9, and I'm like, what are we gonna do between then? And I'm like, I don't know. We're gonna play with the Face app, and then we're gonna walk down the street. I don't know.
We'll probably find a place to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Plus, another thing with the jump back to the ticket thing and all that is, as a music fan, paying a ticket, the times we've bought tickets to see y'all were at, Old Quarter and at Armadillo Palace. And those were far more enjoyable shows as a concert goer than the free shows we've seen y'all where there's 70% of the audience is assholes that don't care
Right,
and will talk
right.
over it.
Right.
It's like once you get to that point where it's like, man, we're not really necessarily charging you just because we can. It's like we actually want the people who want to see us to have
Right.
a good experience.
1,000%. 1,000%.
You can
that
come
was-
out, you can dance, you can do stuff, you can listen to the show,
Right.
and it's not, well, if I start dancing, the dude's talking about his fucking dog isn't going to step all over everything or
Right.
push me out of the way.
And the people you want to come to the gigs will not go. They may show up because we'll get people from time to time. We make the new fan and they're really into the band, which is so cool. And we're like, yeah, come out here, there. And then they'll run into that venue and they'll be like, ooh, yeah, this wasn't for me. And they'll never come back, right? Because they know too. They're like, I don't like this. I'll wait till you play here.
Yeah.
Right.
I just, because they get it, right? They just naturally get it. And you're like, okay, this is a tough venue for us too, right? We got to still play. We're trying to play as many shows as we can. They're not all, Carnegie Hall, but
Well,
Yeah.
that's like, the first time I heard Willie Carlisle was at Old Quarter with you guys. Had my first show of hearing Willie Carlisle been at the Mercury Lounge show, I probably wouldn't have dug him as much just because that was one of those venues. Yeah, you had to pay to get in, and it was not cheap to get into that show. But there was a lot of people there who could not have cared less.
Who were just there to hang,
there to hang out.
Well, but in his show, and I've only seen it once, if you can't sit and really dig in and appreciate it, it's going to fly right by you, right?
Exactly.
Because of all that stuff that he's doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, if you're in a bar where everybody's talking and moving, I probably would be the same way. But like, I don't even know what this guy's saying or whatever, and I would just dismiss it because I'm like, I don't know. It's like I bet it's cool, but I can't even mess with it. But you hear it at the old quarter, and you're like,
This is
all the
amazing.
little details of the like all the crazy stuff he's doing, right? And then you start to put it all together and go, wow, this is holy crap, this guy's something else.
Yeah.
And so, I'm with you, man. I think once you're able to get to that level where it's not like you're being elitist, you're just being like, I want people to get to see a show. We're not the replacement for a jukebox
100%.
at your bar.
Well,
we want you to experience
Yeah, it's
it.
distillation. It's like we've put all this stuff in and we have enough worthwhile audience members to give them a really good show.
Right.
To where there's enough of them will show up to where A, the venue will let us do it again. B, they'll feel like, okay, it's not just me. Like there's a bunch of people who are into this just like me.
Right.
So it gives them a better experience. And A, they get to hear and enjoy. And, like I said, people at the album release we went to at Armadillo Palace, they weren't people just sitting around staring, but they were getting up, dancing, and having a good time. They were listening, they were moving to it because really y'all do play music that's fit for dancing.
Two-stepping like a mofo.
So and that's the deal. Like people were getting up and enjoying it. It wasn't just like, oh, here's background music while I'm trying to
get laid
with somebody. Yeah,
Right.
And it was a far different and better experience, even in like a big dance hall where it's like, hey, people are here. Aesthetically, it's super cool to look out over a sea of people dancing while the band's going and everything. It just makes you feel like I'm here for an event. I'm not just here like to grab some beers and this is happening in the background.
Right.
So, to me, it's more of a, like, we care enough about the people. We have enough people and we care about them enough to give them a good experience.
Yeah, and we've worked hard at that, right? Especially on the dancing side. I think the next phase of our band that we're trying to figure out is, okay, opening or not, right? We're in the venue where everybody's standing there with a beer going, entertain me, right? That's a different show for sure, especially with what we do, right? It's a very different show than the dancing show. And I'm not kidding, man. We have messed with tempos, like speed it up 5. Drop it 5. Let's see, right? Because I always want to see how they react. Because the true dancing people, they know exactly how they want it, right? And when you get it right, man, they'll tell you. And they know, and they're like, man, boom. And that thing, they'll get going, and you can see it on their face. They're like, it's just this thing, this innate feeling of like, this is the tempo.
Right.
You're playing it right. You're not, you know what I mean? You're doing exactly how we need you to do it for us to do this. And this is perfect, and it's all coming together. Yeah. And so we've been very much, because that's primarily where, as we started and where we've been, right, is playing a lot of the dancing, dance hall type stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've really worked on trying to get that show as good as we can get it, right? Because they want waltzes, they want other things. But I mean, we start playing these shows in these bars, clubs, venues of people standing there, and we can't play the same show, right? People will be like, this is kind of boring. All right, it's all kind of the same. And so we've tried to figure out, okay, speed. All right, how are we going to bring the show up? These will be our jammers. All right, jam on these. Let's bump it up 8, 10 beats, right?
Right.
Rock it, or take the thing out and just feel it, right? Then we'll maybe come down slow here. We'll try to not put too many, shuffle types together, right? So that it doesn't just drown out and people don't, go to the bathroom and go, well, I've already heard 3 of these songs. So we're learning more, I guess, about that just because we're doing that a little more now and we're seeing what the reaction is. But we've spent a lot of time working on the dance side of it, right? Of like, how do we get this right?
Right.
Wow.
A lot of time. Like,
Well, see, that's
and
kind
then
of a good
watching.
thing.
And there's times when like Gus, our drummer, right, like super sharp guy, and he'll be in there and I'll be like, pump it up. He's like, no, I think if this feels good. I'm like, just bump it. He's like, all right, I'm gonna bump it. What do you think? Sometimes we're in a show. I'm like, where are we at? He's like 142. I'm like 140. He's like 146, 147. Put it 147, and then we play it. He's like, okay, go. Counts it off, and then everybody's on the dance floor, and I'm just like, after in the instrumental break, I turn around, I'm just smiling, making faces at him, throwing him a middle finger here and there, and he's just laughing at me, going, whatever, But it's that kind of dynamic where he's just like, oh, you're not right. Or we do it like that, and he's like, I turn around in the instrumental break, and he's like, it's too fast. I'm like, I know, it's too fast. I know.
That's on me. I'll take the L
But
for
you know
this
what I mean?
one.
Like, I took a swing. It's too fast. It's too fast. Right. Because we would know, too. We kind of feel it now, too. Because we've embraced that thing. But that's kind of where our band started is, we all came, Josh and I especially, from playing other types of music. And so what I've told people about, at least my journey to this, was there was a time back when I got out of college, I was working for Roger Krager on like the touring side. I was doing merch and some marketing stuff and everything else for him. And I love Roger. Roger's a good dude. But we had played in Austin. He had played in Austin. He did these like songwriter shows around Christmas time where it would be like a little acoustic thing. Yeah. And he played it. I think it was a Sunday night. It was a Sunday night. And he played at the Zona Rosa, and it was like him and Radney Foster, who, by the way, is like outside of being he is a dynamite human being, a really cool guy, and it might have been Bruce Robinson or somebody else. I mean, like real legit good guys.
Yeah.
But the show was over at like 8:30 or 9. It was like a matinee type show on a Sunday, and like, well, what do y'all want to do? We're here, and they're like, let's go to the Continental Club. And so we roll in there, and so Hay Bale was playing. If you're familiar with the band Hay Bale, so Hay Bale was a band that's been around Austin for a really long time, and it's like Red Volkart, who played with Merle Haggard and a bunch of different people. It's Earl Poole Ball, the piano player, played with Johnny Cash and Buck Owens. I can't remember. They've had a bunch of different drummers. Cindy Cash Dollar was playing steel.
Oh wow!
From Sleep of the Wheel. It's like an all-star band of these cats. And the thing was, is they were doing kind of what we do, right? All this old, it was the guy from the Derailers playing bass, and they were doing all these old covers and stuff. And I just remember being in there, and like there was one of every person on planet Earth in there, and everybody was just like, "This is cool." And I was like, I was in the middle of it going, "This is freaking cool, man!" Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where like very rarely does like music intertwine, right? If you're like, I'm into metal and I'm into Taylor Swift, we're not going to find a lot of common ground places, right? But it's like something about that music, like you know what I mean? It was a common ground space with how it came off. And I don't know if it's like, hey, we're in Austin and this is cool and we should just try to be cool. Well, I don't even care. Like, you're welcome. You know what I mean? You're doing this for the wrong reason, but you're doing it. You're making progress. But I remember being like, that's super cool. I'm into that, right? Like, I like that. And so when I met I reconnected with Josh, because I go way back with Josh, right? He and I went to high school together, and we've known each other a long time. You know, I was like, dude, no one does pure old school stuff, right? But the way it was done, not my version of it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So,
exactly.
and then what was crazy is we started picking all these songs, and then I'm like, okay, our thing was like, we're going to learn this like inside and out. We are going to play it exactly the way they played it. Tempos, instrumentation, amps, tones, all of it, right? And I'm like, we are going to learn the recipe, right, of this music. We are going to learn it inside and out, not the way it was. And once we've done that, I think what we'll do is say, okay, now that we feel like we've got a basis of what we're doing, now our voice can come out.
Right.
And that's kind of where the band started, is like we did it to a T, the way it sounded. I wanted you to be able to come in that bar early on and close your eyes and be like, holy moly. Like, it doesn't, it's not some guy playing 100 beats too fast with a 5-piece, 8-piece drum kit and a Les Paul playing Pulse and Blues and Brews. We didn't want to do that, right? We wanted to kind of say our hit ones were going to be moderate hits. Like, we stayed away from the really big, like we never did any of the really big songs. Right. And then I wanted to like say, all right, here's some middle of the road ones, and then we're going to throw some real deep cuts in. And every now and then, because I want someone at the back to be like, oh, dude, did you hear that? Do you know this? No, you don't. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Oh my. You know how we would be.
Can you spot them in the crowd?
We would be all excited, like, you know what I mean? When they come out and do something like, you hear the band and they're like, the punk and it's all kids and they do the Fugazi song. You're like, wow, this is cool. Like, oh, that or what? You know what I mean? Or whatever, And we've had old guys, all kinds of people be like, man, son, where did you learn that? And we're like, that's for you, buddy. I like it. Get over here. You know what I mean? Dude, the true appreciators will get that. You know what I mean? But and then we move along. But that's how our band really started. That was it. And I'm like, look, we'll play covers, we'll do this, and then we've always been a kind of like never really had like a big plan. We're like, well, let's do this and see if we can do it really well, and then we'll just see what happens. We'll see where that goes.
See, I remember, what band did Josh play in before Broken Spokes?
So he's been in a bunch of them, but I know back in the day he was in a punk band. So he and I were in a punk band called Shove It.
Okay,
we were skaters.
Okay,
Pop Shove It. But so when I went to college, I was gone and I wasn't really coming back that often. So he got in a band called the Guillotines.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so it was funny because even at the time, and Josh would tell you if he's here, like I was always still more of like the softer edge guy. Like I like some of that stuff, but like I was always more like the skater kid, right? The Pennywise, the corduroys and the Vans and the chain wallet and the t-shirt. Where Josh was getting more into like the hardcore, like I want a mohawk, I want to, you know what I mean? I'm ripping all my clothes up and wearing this, like a true hardcore punk rocker. And so there were, a group of guys, Austin and all those guys that would kind of were, we went to high school with that were kind of fans of the band, right? So all the punk rock kids from school would be like, oh, there's a band. Oh, these are cool. Well, let's go to the show, right? Because that's what we have to do. And so they all kind of got together and started that band. And I think, like I said, they did really well because they spent 3 or 4 years like really playing Houston a lot.
Yeah.
And they had a really good band. And I mean, Josh did really well with it. And so, I went to college college and got indoctrinated slowly into the Texas country thing, right? I didn't know much about any of that, right? And we just started going different ways. And then it's funny how life works, right? As we got older, we kind of reconnected at one point. He's like, hey, I got this lap steel guitar, man. I've just been listening to like Hank Williams and Ernest Tubb, and it's God, there's really cool stuff there and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, dude, I'm feeling you. And again, at the time, we're like, we want to do a band, but I'm like, this is the most adult thing I'll say all day. It's like, I want to be able to play something that I really love and I can get behind and I feel passionate about, but yet you can make it's marketable. Like I would love to have a Black Flag cover band and we would rip that shit up, but I could not play anywhere to no one, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
I could do that anytime. At that
Correct.
point, we would just come to my house and we'll go in the garage and we will rip. And
You
my
will
kids
save a
will come
lot
out
of
there and be
money.
like, Dad, this is cool. And I'm like, this is cool, right? And they're like, it's so loud, you know. But you know what I mean? And so that's where this thing came in, and we're like, well, we can get behind this. We believe like it's music that we can believe in. But we feel like it's marketable, and it's good timing right now, right? Because everybody's like, we want to return to roots, right? We want to hear real country. We want, like, pop is cool, but we want to still be able to hear real country and things. And our thing was like, well, we're going to put that to the test because we're going to play it. We're going to see what you think.
Because what's funny about it is when I played a show with Josh, I wish I could remember the name. It wasn't the Guillotines, but I was playing steel in the Grizzly Band. And Josh came to me after the show. He's like, hey, man, me and a buddy are going to start this traditional kind of country thing. He goes, would you be interested? Because we're going to do all of it. And I could tell how serious he was. I was like, I can't learn those songs.
Right.
Like I was like, those are out of my wheelhouse.
Right.
And I was like,
Like,
but I said, it sounds great. And I was like, but watch this guy do this. And not 6 months later, I heard Moved Into a Bottle. And I was like, whoa, these dudes really did it. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny because our band has changed a little bit, right? I think early on with some of the people that we had in the band and what we were doing, we started out way more rockabilly, right?
Yeah, because it wasn't Willie. Willie was playing.
Yeah, Willie was playing. And like I said, I love Willie to death. And, in all honesty, we could have we definitely could have handled better how we transitioned with him. But at the time, we were still in a place where we're like, what do we want to be? Do we want to be more edge rockabilly and play that stuff? Or do we want to be more country? And at the time, Kevin was playing bass for us, and he was playing hella pedal steel.
Dude, that guy.
And I'm like, well, if we need to go that route, we need pedal steel. And we'd always be like, Willie, play some pedal. And at the time, I know he had one, but he just wasn't doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not his fault at all, but we were just kind of like, well, hey man, we're kind of going to go in this other direction. You know what I mean? And we want to have this more of this sound, and he's the guy that's going to give it to us. And we kind of made a conscious decision to move more in that direction. Cause I think we've always visioned the band being able to be, and this is not very punk rock, but like, I'd like to be able to like be more middle of the road, like kind of like let's just say 1100 Springs was, hell, Dale's Watson's been that way to a certain extent, or 2 Tons of Steel, right, where they can kind of live between the Texas country stuff and the more hip kind of, you know what I mean, underground.
Yes,
they can kind of float between those crowds, right? So we're not completely pegged into the hardcore rockabilly, or you know what I mean, the super hardcore hipster country crowd, or the just complete Texas country crowd. Because I was like, if we're going to be totally jammed up either way, because we're not really going to fit either spot, right? Because we're just I wish my voice at times, like I said, I wish it had a little more character to it. It's just super slick, right, and super smooth, and it's.
Dude, it is.
Right. And then when you put it all together, like you get traditional, but it's pretty slick, right?
Yeah.
We're pretty slick and smooth, and it comes off a little more modern, and it doesn't have as much edge as like a lot of this other stuff that you see, right? The people that are trying to do, the old school. We're way more Mavericks than we are Junior Brown. Let's just say that.
That's
if you know
good.
what I mean.
Yeah,
if you're looking at the 90s, right?
Hell yeah.
We're way more of that than we are this. And so, you know what I mean? It's been one of those things where we've kind of said, okay, if you try to be everything to everyone, right, you end up being nothing. But like, we're going to try to be ourselves. But there's a line and a place I think that we can find and rest that like, we kind of maximize all fronts, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Without saying, all right, we're all in on this or we're all in on that. Let's just try to maximize these multiple fronts and we'll see where we're at. And, when we talked to Chris Gray about that article, which was awesome, that we really appreciate that he wrote it. We've always been like, I've had the ceiling on this band because what we do, to a certain extent could be kind of niche, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, it's not, how it is, right?
Yeah.
If I really wanted to make a ton of money and business is all I wanted to do, I would totally be doing something different than I'm doing.
Right.
Without a
100%.
doubt. Because that's how business works, right? To a certain extent. But, that's not the way we wanted to do it, but we're trying to grow, and I'm trying to say, look, let's try to find a way to do something that, like I said, I can believe in, but yet not totally change it, not totally sell it out or do, but sand some edges here and there, right?
Right.
So as we learn some things and we move, and I'm like, can we keep sanding edges off where it doesn't really change the face of this thing, but it helps us keep moving, right? It's just a little grease in the wheels here.
Yeah.
And then eventually we're going to hit a ceiling, and I'm like, every time I'm like, oh, it's about as big as it's going to get. And then I'm like, okay, it gets a little bigger, right? And I'm like, this is about as big as it's gonna. I mean, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I'm happy and it's cool, but like every time I say that, it doesn't. And then about 2 years ago, right before COVID, I'm like, you know what? I don't know. You know, how big does this thing get? And I'm like, let's stop like putting a ceiling on what we're doing. And that's where like, you know, Jen, who we work with on the radio stuff, like I was like, dude, no one's going to play this. No one's, people say they want to hear it. I don't know that anyone's going to play this. And I love Jen. And if she was listening, I'd be like, Jen, we had a conversation where I'm like, look, I love you. We're friends, right? I know her personally. I believe in you, but we're at the point of no return. If you take this money and then you come back and you go, well, no one wanted to play it, I'm going to hold you accountable for that.
It might ruin our friendship.
This is not going to be good, right? Because again, just be honest with me, right? If you're just like, I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's been
man.
pretty good, man. I've been a little surprised. And she was like, no, I think this will play. I think this will work. And I'm like, all right, Jen, I'm trusting that you know what you're talking about. Go ahead. And so it's been good. But I mean, we're trying to do things to get, again, that's the other thing is like, you know, everybody's like, you're the best band I've never heard of, right?
Yeah.
You know, and we've just done a poor job marketing.
I think you guys hit on something because you came out right after Blake Shelton had opened his big dumb mouth and was like, no one wants to listen to their grandfather's country. Yeah, they do. Like, yeah, they do. It's fun.
There never reaches a point where like, man, I don't want to hear people who are really good at their instruments and create music that's, you know, that's at the same time very accessible but also very intricate.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, man. There's so much. It sounds so simple, but there's a lot going on. And dude, we got an absolute education on how to make this work. One of the biggest things is the drummer. You know how many drummers cannot play what we do? Lots. It's so simple and it's so intricate. And again, it's about, dude, you've got to really to play that swinging beat. It's hard, and I'm like, and you got to get the bass player in there, right? And it's like it's got to be right just behind the beat, and you guys got to have a little give and take, right? So when he's pushing out in front, you got to be laying back, and it's almost got a seesaw with y'all.
Oh yeah.
Right? And when now the rhythm's going. That's 80% of what we're trying to do. You guys that play instruments, you are the window dressings. I sing the songs. Look at me, right? And then this whole thing, just all of a sudden, all of it goes. And then when you hear that out there, you're like, whoa, right?
One of the best drummers I ever played in a country band with was Neil LaCroix.
Yeah.
He played for Sean Reed from the Resident Valley Boys. And I'll never forget, he came in to kind of lay down some stuff, and he literally just came in with a bass drum and a snare drum. And I was like, what the hell is this going to be? And he proceeded to school the shit out of me.
To lay down the fattest.
And I was like, okay, buddy, I'll follow you into battle, sir.
That's why, dude, we took drums away so much because like it's a drummer. I don't blame them. If it's there, they're gonna hit it. They have to at some point. They're just like, and I'm not. I want to hit it, right? You know, I don't get it, but like we're like do less. That was our whole band. Do less. Do less. And so we're learning. We're still learning that, right? At times to be able to say, okay, how do we take the slow song, and we're gonna feature the lyrics and the vocal, right? And we're gonna set a mood, and we're gonna do. You need to play way less notes, but we need to get twice as much out of those notes, right?
Yes.
It's super hard. Now when it's like we got really good players, right? So it's like, all right, play, go, empty the bag. It's awesome, right? But I mean, like any band, like you can only do that so many times before that whitewashes you out, right?
Right.
And again, the time that I spent with Roger, I will say I learned a lot and I've worked with a lot of these guys over time about how to be pros, man, and like what was going on. And my thing when I came out of that was like, okay, if you want to stand on that stage, the product has to be this. Because say whatever you want about some of the songs or some of these people, the bands were really good. Randy Rogers' band in 2006, 2007, 2008 was killer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Pat Green's band.
Yeah.
Dude, I've seen that a guy live mixing their ears. Bro, it was I blew my mind. And they were unbelievable. Like I would put that band against any band in terms of a band, a live band, anywhere that I've seen. I mean, these are as good of a professional live bands as you've ever seen. And I'm like, look, this was also but way before all the social media stuff and all that. But I'm like, look, if you want to stand on that stage, the product this is what you're going to measure to.
Yeah.
So our thing was like, okay, let's get the product where it needs to be with finding the right people, finding the right songs, practicing. We play.
Yeah.
We want to get tight. And my thing was like, once the product is there, all this other crap is going to take care of itself.
Right, exactly.
Furthest thing from the truth, bro. It's the furthest thing from the truth.
All right, y'all, that was quite the cliffhanger, huh? All right, we'll be back next week to figure out why exactly we're all wrong. Till then, man, we thank y'all for listening to this episode of Music in the Minor League. Again, if you like what you heard, share the podcast with a friend, share it via social media, however you feel like doing it, man. We just appreciate you getting the word out. It's really the best way for us to reach new listeners and the best way for the bands we talk to reach new ears. If you enjoyed the Broken Spokes or listening to Brent, be sure to go see him. We laid out the dates at the beginning. Lots of chances to go see them out there. Make sure you follow them online. Follow them on your streaming service of choice. All their records are out there and they're all real good. Now we're going to leave you with the song that we used as the bumper music today. Is the title track from Where I Went Wrong, their new album. It is called Where I Went Wrong. Check it out, man. We'll see you next week.
Above my head as these clouds come rolling in. Yesterday's fumes heavy on my breath as I sang a lonely song. I don't know where I went wrong. I don't know where I went wrong, where I went wrong. But I'm sitting here cold and alone. She's downtown having all the fun, doing things that can't be undone. I don't know where I went wrong. Myself a drink and I start to think, why do I always howl at the moon? Staying up late, getting no sleep as I dig my grave with a spoon. Don't think she's got a mind to head back home, and I can't say I blame her. She never did want to go it alone. Sit back down in this chair and I run my fingers through my hair. I don't know where I went wrong. I don't know where I went wrong, where I went wrong. But I'm sitting here cold and alone. She's downtown having all the fun, doing things that can't be undone. I don't know where I went wrong. I don't know where I went wrong.